All right, good afternoon, everyone. Since it's 1:02 and we do have quorum, I am going to go ahead and start the meeting. So as this is the first meeting of the year for this committee, we do need to run the election of officers, which I will do so presently. Before doing so, I want to confirm that we do have quorum. I have received regrets from Francesca Crete as well as Michelle McCarty, who will not be able to join us this afternoon. Joining us from staff are Ruth Nordegraff, Director of Housing and Social Services, and Joanne Boris, Housing Program Administrator. I am Elizabeth Fawcett, Committee Clerk for the committee, and Julia McCarty-Jansman is joining us as our meeting host. We currently have 3 members of the public joining us in the gallery as well. So with that, we'll jump right in to election of officers. So is there a nominee for the position of chair, please? Councillor Dougherty.
No, I don't want to nominate me. I would like to nominate Jackie if she's open to do it again.
Yes, I am. Thank you, Bridget. I am open to doing it again. Unless somebody else is interested, I'm happy to.
Perfect. We'll start there. Is there a seconder for Jacqueline? Thank you, Councillor Neal. Excellent. Are there any other nominations for the role of chair? Seeing none, I will close the nominations and call the vote. All those in favor for Jacqueline Collier as chair? Excellent. Ms. Smith, I see that you're in the meeting, but your video isn't on. Just want to confirm your vote.
Yes, I vote yes.
Excellent. Thank you. That is unanimous. So congratulations, Madam Chair. Would you like me to run the nominations for Vice Chair?
Sure, up to you.
Okay, perfect. Then I will look for a nominee for the role of Vice Chair, please.
I would put forward a nomination. Sorry, Ms. Smith, please go ahead.
I was going to nominate Peter Clark.
Okay. Mr. Clark, do you accept the nomination?
I would prefer not to. I think that I've been in part of the leadership of this group for a long time, and I think that it benefits from new leadership. And thank you, Francis. Appreciate your confidence.
Okay.
All right. So then, do we have another nomination, Councillor Neal?
I don't know if she'll ever forgive me, but I would nominate Councillor Dougherty.
All right, Councillor Dougherty.
Okay, I would, except I think it's good not to have councillors in that position. I think it is good to have community members. So can I bounce this ball around a bit further?
If you're not willing to accept, then yes. So, you have another...
I am willing. I don't mean it like that, but I actually do think that.
I mean, if it helps, I intend to be present for every meeting, Councillor Dougherty. I don't intend to leave you.
Okay, sure. Okay, I'll accept it. Okay, sounds good. Thanks, Jackie.
Okay, then do we have a seconder for that? I see Mr. Clark. Okay. Are there any other nominations for the role of Vice Chair? Okay, seeing no hands, I will close nominations then and call the vote. All those in favor for Councillor Dougherty as Vice Chair? And that is approved unanimously. Congratulations, Councillor Dougherty. And Madam Chair, I will turn it over to you.
Right on. Okay, first and foremost, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. I just want to start again by acknowledging it's a group of volunteers, and it's so important. It's such an important committee. And thank you so much, everybody, for your heart and your passion, and looking forward to our year ahead and everything that we're going to review and, advise on. So we will begin with bringing the meeting to order and approval of the agenda. If I could please have a first for the approval of the agenda. Thank you. I see Tara, and then I saw a second hand up was Councillor Neal. So if we could go with that, and then if I could see all hands in favor. Thank you very much. Okay, so that is approved unanimously. So we will move over to confirmation of minutes. So everybody has the minutes from the Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee meeting number 06 of 2021, which was held in September. Was there anything, any changes, additions, deletions? Was there anything anybody wanted to review or change from those minutes? Okay, if I could have a first, please. Thank you, Mr. Clark. And if I could have a second. Thank you, Ms. Everett. And I saw Ms. White as well. Thank you very much. If I could see for those that are in favor to approve. Thank you very much. So we're all in favor and that passes unanimously. Disclosure of pecuniary interest. Is there any? Perfect. So we'll move forward. There are no delegations. Am I correct in saying that, Ms. Fawcett?
That is correct, Madam Chair.
Thank you. And briefings, I don't see any briefings either for this particular meeting. So we'll move right into business. So we have the standing update report, which is for information purposes only, though I'm not sure if there is any presentation from Ms. Nordegraaf or any of our city staff.
Thank you so much, and to you, Madam Chair. Just to check if everybody can hear me okay?
Yes.
So thank you so much. So yeah, not necessarily a presentation, but as you hopefully appreciate, we have started this year with a standing update reports to the committee every meeting. So there is really, as much as we can, you know, a good overview of all the various kind of components of the housing and homelessness portfolio. I'm happy to kind of walk through it real quick, and after that, happy to answer any questions, if that's okay, Madam Chair. So on the homelessness services side, we obviously have been working a lot on kind of the more COVID specific and kind of short-term responses needed, and also the longer-term kind of homelessness services. We have in October, actually with the leadership of the United Way and Public Health, started a homelessness collective table, which is actually something that also came out of the homelessness system review. And that table has been meeting bi-weekly and is really, you know, bringing a lot of different partners to the table to come up with some more collaborative solutions for the kind of homelessness system. And we'll keep this committee apprised of you know, any pieces that come out of that table. But it's really exciting to have that as a collective, as a community, because as a municipality, we definitely have an important role to play, but we really need to have multiple partners around the table. The Integrated Care Hub in November, Council did approve an extension of some funding for the Integrated Care Hub until April 1st, 2022, but also has asked us to have a third-party review of the service and the implications of the service in the area. So we are working through that. We are we're looking at reporting back with that review in February 2022 to Council. We obviously, as I think has been shared as well, are in conversation as partners for like longer term funding for the Integrated Care Hub as well, because it truly is a very important healthcare component. And the city, as we're focused on the funding housing, do not necessarily have that ability to continue that funding moving forward. On the shelter system, we obviously, as everybody is aware, have been over the last 6 weeks been very busy to kind of respond to the various outbreaks in the vulnerable population. I will say that we're in much better shape now, as in the number of positive cases. And I know there's been a lot of hard work with staff and communities to support that. We still are, in the reality of a capacity or infection prevention control. It still requires us to look at limited, lower capacity. So that will continue to be a reality. We also continue to work with public health to look at how we can resolve that. And I will just quickly jump to the winter planning, because I know it is very much related to that. We are working on 2 projects behind the scenes, one being the warming center that council approved as well on November 16, or allowed us to move ahead with that and have funding for that. And we're very close to sharing some more information about that. And we obviously are also, our Livable Solutions is working on a sleeping cabin pilots, which also is anticipated coming online really soon. I know there's still a lot of needs, but I know there is definitely a lot of work happening behind the scenes to come up with some of these solutions for the winter months. At the same time, the homelessness system review, which you all have supported us with greatly and provided inputs, did go out for council, also recommended or supported the recommendations in, I'm blanking here, in October, and that has gone out for procurements, and we will again come back to with the outcomes of that procurement process. On the social housing program side, obviously, that kind of area is quite prescribed by the province and how we deliver that service. But a few kind of, I think, good news stories. First of all, our portable housing benefit program continues to be very well received and is really helpful in kind of adding housing solutions for individuals. We have been able to support 87 residents with that benefit. And in the 2022 budgets that this was discussed in council, we have added another 25 portable housing benefits in the system. We try to find really the right balance between not adding too many housing benefits because of the housing market, but it truly is a good tool for people that are potentially already housed in a good place, but just really are spending a lot of their income towards their rent. So this has been a good option in many ways. The other, I think, really good news story that's coming to us in April 2022 is the next round of the Canada Ontario Housing Benefits, which is works similarly to the portable housing benefits, and will allow us to also direct benefits to various vulnerable populations. So we are working through that and looking at how we can best deploy that funding in April. We just gave you a bit of an overview of the wait list. Of course, we're still seeing a lot of needs on the wait list, but we just want to make sure that you get that overview at every meeting. We also highlighted some of the results of the ongoing tenant support services program through Kingston Housing Corporation and provided you with some numbers. And we also wanted to give you some insight in, some of the issues. I mean, there's that we have been made aware of, especially for those seniors that are on a lower income, especially with the some of them having received CERB and now seeing some changes in their guaranteed income supplements. And we have worked really closely with the MP's office to make sure that we can utilize some of our homelessness prevention funding to prevent seniors from having to face eviction. And we continue to have those conversations. On the affordable housing projects and initiatives, again, I know we continue to have quite a significant need, and need to really continue to look at that more in a longer term vision. But there is some really great progress with housing projects. 27 Wright Crescent will actually come online in very early 2022. 1316, 1318 Princess Street has actually started work on site, and KFHC is anticipating to start the work, the construction as well in early 2022. Council committed funding towards the 484 Albert Street project. Bath Road is making progress in the planning approvals. And 113 Lower Union will actually anticipating that the first tenants will also be moving in very, very, very early 2022. I find it really hard to pinpoint a date because there has been so many supply and reality issues. So I don't want to, I would rather we will keep you posted, and we'll have some really good, hopefully information on that as well, and some celebrations, because I do think it's important sometimes to celebrate the hard work that's happening. And then on the 805 Bickley Drive site, again, council was presented a proposal for the 12 units on the east wing through our rapid housing investment dollars, and that is moving along, and our staff team at facilities is working really hard on getting that ready to go by November 2022. And we're working on a plan for the West Wing as well. Some progress is happening at the tiny house pilot project at Habitat for Humanity in the Rideau Heights area. What's not on this list, but what was brought forward is also the tiny homes project with the Homes for Heroes group at the Portsmouth area. And then we also just, we continue to work on the Rideau Heights regeneration phase 2. There are some work there on roads and parks that will be prepared in 2022. And then 2 more, I'm always there on the projects. 1 Curtis Crescent is also, as a result of the rapid housing funding, will be 9 more units, and Kingston Frontenac Housing Corporation is working on that. And another project that we're actually really excited about is 3 Cassidy Street at Onguanada, which is going to provide 7 beds for some of their youth. So you'll see it's quite the list. There's a lot happening on getting various housing solutions ready. And like I said, we really want to focus 2022 as well on more of to continue to have the ability to have an ongoing pipeline of various housing solutions. We have been working, and this will come to the committee as well in early 2022 on a housing supply, overview of various groups and needs, and really am curious to get some of your feedback on that as well. I also wanted to highlight both the Kingston Frontenac Renovates program and the home ownership program, which are also projects that happen through our office that continue to run. Certainly with the pandemic have been a bit of a lower uptake, and especially the home ownership program, we've continued to increase the max kind of housing or the max purchasing price due to the reality of the cost of housing. And we continue to explore every year how we can best change those programs so they can be utilized. Other updates, again, I've already mentioned rapid housing, but we have been lucky to receive $7.4 million from the federal from the federal government, and we've been able to identify 4 projects for those, which I've just highlighted. The Social Planning Council of Kingston and District, some of you might have been able to participate, created a housing forum earlier this year a few months ago, and we're hoping to get some of their findings. Also happy to share with this group. We continue to have a supportive and transitional housing roundtable meeting. We started that back in the spring, summer, and it's been really good to have that ongoing conversation and partnership building, and also sharing and capacity building. Actually, many of you have been working really hard on the terms of reference updates, which is pretty much ready to go. We are sharing this with the Equity, Diversity and Inclusion Committee next week for their inputs, and then it will go through, hopefully, the approval process. We also have been working on a pilot project to compensate or look at compensation of people with lived or living experience on the Housing and Homelessness Committee as per a motion to council in June. And same with that, we do want to first, we do want to also get some input from the EDI committee, and then it will come back for approval. I'm sure there's a lot more, but that was kind of the update that I wanted to just highlight, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much for that review. And so, yes, now at this point, I will call on any committee members who want to ask a question or make a comment. And then following that, if there are any members of the public that are present, each member of the public can speak up to 5 minutes and ask all questions. And all of the questions will be answered at the end of the public questions comment section of this business item. So together will be answered at the end. So from our committee members, I see we've got Ms. White with her hand up. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon through you, Chair. I'm just looking at the numbers for the emergency shelter system. Collectively, there's 73 spaces. And I know that they're working on getting a warming center up and ready, which is fantastic. The question I have, and I don't know if council staff can answer this, it's in regards to the integrated care hub receiving trailers when the pandemic or the COVID thing happened at their location. And I'm just wondering, isn't there a possibility that more trailers could be added for them to help them out with the situation that they're in? Or is that more connected to the health department section? That's all I had, just that question.
And through you, Madam Chair, Ms. White, if I can clarify, are you specifically asking to utilize the trailers for self-isolation or for winter response?
More like a combination, because if there's going to be all those people with their tents, why isn't it possible to just add a few more trailers that can be utilized in both kind of situations? So hopefully as the COVID subsides, the people can still use them just, for staying warm.
Yeah, no, that's and through you, Madam Chair, just wanted to clarify that, because there definitely, I know there's been a lot of information on the trailers, and they were definitely brought in initially to help with some of the self-isolation. Currently, they're actually empty. Well, one is being utilized to actually, we have some donations in there from the members of the community. But we certainly are, and we don't have an answer yet, but we're certainly looking at, could we utilize these for other purposes, such as, keeping people warm, or, obviously, again, we continue to see the realities of not having as many places available in our community during the day for a warming. And again, that is definitely something that we are thinking about. I will say again, it goes back to who is able to support and manage some of that. Some of it does not necessarily have to, but it's a really good point. And it's definitely something that we're actually just talking about quietly, because we also don't want to jinx it, because ideally we don't have to use them for self-isolation. But and I don't know if this is appropriate, but I do want to really put a plug in for the amazing work of all of the staff that have been working incredibly hard over the last 6 months in all the different agencies, because we were very lucky to not have to, that this was the first time we were actually facing a positive COVID situation, but it is incredibly stressful and in an already exhausted, stretched frontline group of people and community members. So good question. We're definitely not just gonna return the trailers, and we're definitely looking at it, but we just want to be realistic about how that would operate.
Does that help, Ms. White? Perfect. So I saw Councillor Neal's hand first, I believe, and then Mr. Clark's hand. So we'll go in that order, please.
Thank you very much. I'm curious, Ruth, about where we're at with the warming center. I know that it's been a few weeks and I shoveled my walk this morning, and we definitely need a warming center. So I'm curious about where we're at with designating one. And follow-up question would be, in future, will we be able to get a better head start on that?
Thank you, and through you, Madam Chair. Thanks for that question, Councillor Neal. So we are very close to giving some specifics. I just want to make sure that we have also the ability to communicate with neighbors and just making sure that there is, you know, a good understanding of what it looks like. So expect some more information early next week. I mean, absolutely. I think we unfortunately earlier on did not anticipate that we were in both a COVID outbreak and still at limited capacity in our shelters. So we are, and we have also added this as an ask to our partners, but we definitely are not going to be, well, I mean, I really do not want to be in this position again next year and have more a lead up time. Again, I do want to just emphasize that, you know, we're really seeing the staffing, you know, I wouldn't say necessarily shortages, but just it's not as simple, I think, and that has definitely changed, I think, over the last little while. It's not as easy to recruit for these kind of service for the social services sector. Again, over the last few years, these individuals have worked incredibly hard, and I think we're really seeing, you know, that as something that we need to be thinking of moving forward as a community and as a collective. Like, how could we look at more of a staffing, you know, like even having a collective, you know, group of people that can be used for multiple, you know, purposes. Anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but it's definitely something that we're seeing and moving forward. But yes, absolutely, good point.
Okay, and I have a second question. I love representing the district I represent. I had absolutely no complaints about a tent at the Memorial Center, nor did I have any complaints about a couple of people in the stalls at the barn. The complaints came when we put up a no trespassing sign and basically forced people out of that little bit of shelter they had. I'm curious, can we have some assurance that if we have to have no trespassing and remove people from that little bit of shelter they have, that they'll be given motel vouchers or something, so that they aren't just being forced to live in the cold and in the rough?
Thank you, and to you, Madam Chair. Thanks for that question, Councillor Neal. So, I mean, well, I will share a couple of things, and if Ms. Boris would like to add something, please do so. So first of all, we do have, and we will also work in 2022 on early 2020, or hopefully earlier in 2022. We definitely know that the encampment protocol and how we are, how we kind of roll that out, that we want to review that and have a conversation about how do we continue to kind of work in that area. So that's maybe a broader answer. We certainly have and continue to try to always, through our street outreach and bylaw and other members of the community, to provide options to people if they are outside. I recognize that right now there is not a ton of options, so that's why we are looking at things like a warming center. Motel, there are currently people in motels, more as an overflow. I will be frank, not everybody will be suitable for a motel. Some people are, some people aren't. Some people may be better suited in, for instance, a warming center or a shelter at ICH. So just kind of want to emphasize that there always is an offering of services or looking at what services would work best for individuals. I mean, I cannot speak for specific situations, but there also are always people, there have been people that have not accepted services, even if they are available. So it is definitely a bit of it's not a one approach. There's different situations. I don't know, Ms. Boers, if you want to add to that. So.
Yeah, I'd like to dispel the myth that there's hotel vouchers to be had. Unfortunately, that's not the case, nor is it a program. The owners of the motels need to ensure that individuals, especially those who might be vulnerable, are supported by organizations that can ensure their safety and well-being throughout the course of any given day, 7 days a week. So the individuals that we currently have that are residing in motels as overflow are being supported by staff teams that are actually going on site to provide meals, counseling services, housing first support, those types of support services as wraparound care. We have had instances in the past where that has not been available and it has not gone well for either the motels or the clients themselves. So unfortunately, we're not able to do that. But I will reiterate that Street Outreach was very aware of the individuals who were staying at the Memorial Center barns. There were some serious concerns around safety, which unfortunately did come to be. And that was one of the main reasons that the decision was made to put up the non-trespassing signs. Again, structurally, that barn after the fire was left in some structural challenges and could have potentially hurt anyone who was going inside of that building until it had been shored up. So we work very closely with all our departmental colleagues and all of the service providers within the city to ensure that we're trying to take as empathetic an approach as possible to ensuring people, but health and safety will always trump any other pieces that we have to deal with at this point. And in this case, that's what occurred. Thank you.
And if I might, the health and safety has to be a concern for those people who are being moved from that site as well. And I know part of the problem, and I didn't know about this until a constituent pointed it out, we actually turned the power off at that location at one time. I see you're shaking your head no. That's the information I was given by a city staff person. So it's really unfortunate. And I'm just wondering, Ruth, if we will be reviewing our encampment protocol given the spike in COVID and given the weather that we're facing right now.
So currently as per public health kind of advice, we are not, unless there is a health or safety risk, we are not moving people. And that might change. But I think further to your question, so we are working really closely with everybody around the table to make sure what the best kind of situation is. I will also say that I'm as kind of mentioned earlier, we will be reviewing the encampment protocol as a whole as well. right now we're very mindful of it's not we're really working really closely with public health on making sure that we are really following the best approach due to the current cases that we have in our community.
Thank you.
So the next hand up was Mr. Clark's. I believe Councillor Dougherty was wanting to maybe respond to something in that conversation. It sort of looked like. I did,
but I don't want to jump in. Mr. Clark had his hand up waiting for me.
Madam Chair, I'm going to go in a different direction. So if Councillor Dougherty wants to continue this discussion, I'm quite fine with that.
Perfect. That's what I was hoping you would say.
Okay. Thanks for that. No, so I was also told that the electricity was turned off. So I just wonder if staff could please just share with us what actually happened there. Because the worst thing that can happen is if there's misinformation spread in the community, that's not beneficial for anyone. But I actually thought that too. I thought, and I was worried when I heard about the fire that it was caused because we turned it off.
So thank you, and to you, Madam Chair. So I know, our housing and social services staff are obviously not the staff that would be on site. We have various departments involved in various facilities and areas. And again, I'm happy to just dispel the myth or just get back to the group. It's unfortunate that the information is still out there, but we didn't. My understanding, and again, I know Councillor Neal, you did mention that you had a conversation with the city staff, but that we did not turn off the power. My understanding is that the power technically is also not available at these sites because they are utilized, for instance, for the markets or for other purposes. And for some reason, I think there was still power available. My understanding is that the power was, that there was a defect in the power. But again, I'm the Director of Housing and Social Services, so I cannot speak about, I wasn't there on site. So if it's helpful, I'm happy to, just clarify another time to make sure that we all have the right information.
I would appreciate it. I think it's really important that we do have the right information. Thanks.
Okay, and so we will move forward with Mr. Clark, if you would like to go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, I have two questions, and they're on completely different two completely different subjects. One being COVID, and the other being Rideau Heights. So, in terms of COVID, I'm wondering if maybe we could get just a bit of an update on what we're doing in terms of potential isolation, either self-isolation or in terms of a contact or required isolation in terms of an infection going forward in the winter.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. Thanks, Mr. Clark. That's a great question, and I'm really happy to add a little bit more context there. So over the last 20 months now, I think, we have been working really closely with our partners. Addictions Mental Health Services has stepped up actually in March 2020 to run the self-isolation program. The self-isolation program has had multiple iterations. Initially, we set it up not knowing what to expect and what would happen in the West End, in the 805 Whitney building as a 24/7 self-isolation center. At that point, we did not see a lot of difference, not a lot of cases. So, the investments in a 24/7 service for only one or two clients at the time was not the right, at that point, not the right investment. So they actually pivoted to a hotel model which was more of it could grow and reduce capacity at any given time. So they have been continuing that model for the last, I would say that's probably been about a year. And they have been serving, I would say now close to 300 different individuals through that self-isolation program. Most of them through our shelter system, but definitely also some individuals that have no ability to self-isolate because, for instance, they might live in a rooming house or in a family with limited space and other vulnerable individuals. So that model has continued to exist and will continue to exist. So right now, I know the trailer situation was hopefully a one-off situation because of the surge. But we will continue to have that model available, and it has been very effective. There's been actually some really great success stories with individuals that have been able to, through that, stabilize more, been, for instance, be able to receive opioid substitution supports with street health, and there's some really, really good success stories. We also, again, continue to work with public health on assessing what we can and cannot do in our current shelter model. Similar, like many other communities, we obviously do need to kind of keep, like, we're not sure, right? I mean, this has been the reality of the pandemic, like what the next month will look like or the next 5 months will look like. So it's definitely been a bit of an ongoing fluid model. And some of these, like I said, we could not maintain financially the 24/7 self-isolation. And it's hard sometimes to, start up a new program in a few weeks if things happen. So it's been, I'm feeling really comfortable with the current hotel model and the partnership, maybe for people's awareness, like if somebody does access shelters or other services, there is rapid testing happening. So people will be able to, if they do screen and they're screened positive, there will be an intake through the self-isolation program, and it will be determined what the best location is for clients to go. We also have worked really closely as a community, as a collective team with United Way, Public Health, the shelter partners, our own internal kind of emergency response team. I'm forgetting great people here, AMHS, paramedics. Like we've been meeting daily, including the weekends, to like organize food drop-offs through Lionhearts of people that might be able to be self-isolating at home but do not have the ability to have somebody drop off food. We've been getting cell phones donated. And again, we're seeing the ability, for instance, after the 10 days of self-isolation of people in social housing or whatever housing, they have been able to been set up with a more longer term food box through the Kingston Community Health Center. So there's been a lot of, I think, new opportunities. And the last thing I will say, sorry, I'm getting on a bit of a spiel here, is that we've also really been seeing great uptake through the Kingston Transit vaccination and testing clinics that continue to happen at specific locations. So I think what long answer, but the short of it is we continue with our self-isolation. We continue to make sure that we look at testing and vaccination of all the individuals that are eligible, and we continue to be as nimble as we can with the limited capacity that we do have.
Great, thank you. My other question is about Rideau Heights. And as long as I've been involved in this committee, we've been talking about Rideau Heights, which is reasonable because it's a 25-year project. And it just out of curiosity, does your department, Ruth, go back and every periodically get council's reaffirmation of their support of this program? You know, I think if we get to the end of 25 years and it's been supported by, I don't know how many councils, it will be one for the record books. But we've put as a community, and certainly you folks as staff have put so much work into this thing. I just I think we're about halfway through. It would be a shame not to see it go to fruition. So I was just wondering, do you every once in a while go back and get council to reaffirm it so that we're continuing on?
To you, Madam Chair, thank you for that question. We don't necessarily go back to council to check, you know, if council is still supportive of the concept, but the way we do go back to council is obviously every year through our budgets and like both capital and operating budgets. And that's obviously always a good way to check and see if it still is, you know, in line with where council is going. I cannot speak for council or for the members of council on the call today, but we are, I think, yeah, we obviously do go back every year to council to ask for budgets to continue on every project on the work plan. And that is always a good opportunity to, I think, for council to ask questions or for staff to propose any changes that they might see. I do want to clarify that there definitely also has been some misunderstanding around Rideau Heights recently. Because again, the intent of the Rideau Heights regeneration is to add or to find a better mix of housing solutions in that area. Right now, obviously, the number of units through the social housing program there is represented of about a third of to 50% of our full social housing complements in the community. And I think there has been some conversations happening in the community about residents thinking that we are evicting or moving people, which, you know, the one project that we obviously have already finalized was the 80 Daily project. That was the building that was the individuals living there were moved to other housing solutions. But this is, to your point, a long project with lots of lead up time. And there always will be, there's only very limited kind of, or the pieces that we're working on right now is really to get the road ready, work on the tiny homes project with habitats. We're working on a market block that we want to develop. And then I know Kingston Project Housing is very busy right now with 1316 Princess and 27 Rights. But we kind of methodically work through that plan. I feel like that's a very long answer, but yeah, we definitely, I think council always has the ability to tell us through, I think, the budgets, or if there are any concerns, then we're always, I think, happy to bring anything back for clarification, or if there is any changes that are needed.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I was just thinking that a number of years ago, and it was a number of years ago, we had I can't even remember who the director was at the point. We had a couple of really excellent, as a committee, really excellent updates in terms of Rideau Heights and the staging and the plan, why they were approaching it the way they were, and what the development plan was, both short-term and long-term. And I'm just wondering if on your laundry list of things that the committee might want to do in 2022 is to get something like that put together as a presentation to the community, to the committee. Doesn't necessarily have to be, immediately, but it might be just a good information piece that would hopefully dispel any concerns about misinformation that's floating around.
Yeah, and sorry, through you, Madam Chair, absolutely. We would be gladly bringing some information forward. I also think, there will be a new council coming in for next term. And I think it's also always a really good opportunity to do when we are doing a lot of the council presentations and introductions to make sure that we have that opportunity to share that information. But I'm making it notes, so we'll gladly bring an information report to this committee in 2022 with just some updates and maybe a bit of history, so we have the right information at hand.
Awesome, thank you. Councillor Neal, please go ahead.
Thank you. Just a quick follow-up to Peter's comments. If I recall, and people can correct me, the only questions that got raised around the plans had to do with parking. Nobody on council ever questioned the funding or the overall goals of that. And one of those goals, I think, we've recognized for a long time that there's, a kind of north end, a bias to the north end, because it was back in the 60s and 70s, we kind of took all of our GI and poor people and put them in the same area. And that isn't the plan now. And I know Ruth has worked hard on this. We are trying to have right across the city mixed affordable housing. And that's a really good part of this plan, I think, is that we won't be ghettoizing the poor anymore, hopefully. And so that's one of the promising things of the future plan. So thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dougherty, at one point I did see your hand, I think, go up again, but I'm not sure, it might be there for a second and down.
I do have a few things to say. Thanks, Chair, Madam Chair. I just wonder, do we keep track of the vaccination rates for the unhoused people, members in our community? Like, how are we keeping tab of people with no fixed addresses?
Through you, Madam Chair, I actually would not have a good answer for you. I mean, we as a city don't. I know public health is at the table and is really trying to their best ability to keep track of that. Obviously, it's a subpopulation, so it's not as easy to keep track of it. But I know we, again, working with our shelters and through the vaccination clinics that were very targeted, we are definitely, public health has a reasonable understanding of the vaccination rates. And I know they have been really hands-on with various vaccination clinics and opportunities, incentives, different locations, different times. I could not give you a percentage, but I know, again, public health would have a good handle on that.
And I know you should have to give me the answer on this one either, but I would hope that they also would be first in line or pretty early in line to get the third vaccine as well, because...
Yes, and through you, Madam Chair, absolutely. That has already been discussed.
Okay, excellent, thanks. So I was a member on the Housing Review Committee, and it was recommended that we read the book on ending homelessness, which I did. And it was quite interesting, some of the suggestions where the successful communities actually did it very, very, they focused on each individual at a time, and that had the best success rates. I know we have various numbers on how many unhoused people we have in Kingston, and it ranges somewhere between 200 and 400. And I just wonder, have staff discussed with all of the community partners that we have perhaps embracing an individual kind of approach.
Thank you. And to you, Madam Chair, I'm happy to start. And if Ms. Boris wants to jump in, please do. So I think what we are really seeing, and I think that has been coming also out of our system review and the collective, and even the response to our COVID pandemic, is that there is not one solution and there's not one service that fits everybody. Every individual will have different needs, will have a different acuity level, or difference has different needs. And I think we all, again, it's been something we've been discussed quite a bit. We're really looking at that health, social services, and housing intersection, and how we can wrap around the various services for that one client. One client might thrive really well in a transitional housing unit, and then is able to move into more permanent housing. Another client might really thrive better in a more of a community setting or communal setting. There is, again, a lot of the different kind of intersections that come into play. There is, for instance, the origin of clients, or some of the, we know a large group of our clients self-identify as Indigenous or Indigenous. So I guess my answer would be absolutely. We're seeing that. We are trying to, I think, as a system, again, look at multiple solutions, but we also have the reality of funding and economy of skill. I think opening up a service for 30 people might cost the same as opening a service for 10 people. Give and take. There's also some realities with funding and how much we can support, and how we can, again, as municipal government, as the federal and provincial governments, and all of our different community agencies, the healthcare sector, how we can best, I think, apply our resources to that. At the Homelessness Collective table, that certainly is something that's coming forward, and there's some really great partners at that table that, I will be quite honest, before the pandemic we did not have at the table.
So, Madam Chair, I have two more questions. Thanks. One is related. So we do have the individual needs, but we also, of course, everybody needs food and shelter, but also a sense of community. And I think perhaps we've learned that through the pandemic as well, that we need to keep communities together as much as possible. Are you planning for that or working on that as well?
So through you, Madam Chair, yes, most certainly we do recognize, and I think just through some of the work for instance, the work from Dr. Carrie-Ann Marshall and some of the other research that was done, we certainly have some really good ideas on how we can, and again, this is not that we, if I say we, I say the whole community, because I don't think a municipal government can do all of that. But, sorry. For instance, what we've learned loud and clear, what we've heard loud and clear is that we want to make sure that if we do have a client that's, that can move into housing, that we have a plan and a support system in place for them when they're housed. I mean, obviously the Housing First model has been looked at, and how we can improve that. And we know that individuals have their community that they feel safe with. So we don't want to, we want to make sure that people continue to have that community. Again, as I mentioned, sometimes a congregate setting is really helpful for individuals to maintain that community. Sometimes it's better for individuals to actually move into their own place and their own support. So it's definitely, I think, again, going back to, we have individual needs, we have different communities within the community, and it probably will continue to change too. So I think it really is more around how do we create a system that's not like set for 5 years and we can change and we cannot move things around but how do we create more opportunities, more options? But again, that also really needs to be in partnership with other services such as healthcare, so other social services, because it is not just a housing situation. And the one thing I will add is council also, in council's 2022 budget, we did also include additional rent assistance. So we will be able to, in the system, start providing people through the shelter system with options for additional rent assistance should they be able to be housed. So there's some great tools that we're able to bring in.
Thanks. I muted myself because the dog's barking, but you just actually led into my last question, and that's budget. You mentioned budget. Well, at budget time, I got frustrated that we still have to account for and spend municipal dollars on this stepping down from the federal government's funding for operations, because we know it's not just about housing, but it's also the cost of operations. So here, all communities across Canada are struggling with these challenges, and the federal government at the same time still stepping down from their obligation. And of course, during the Mike Harris government, social support was cut by 21% and healthcare was reduced. And this is really why we're in this predicament now. Everybody knew it when those cuts took place, that we would be in a difficult position, and municipal funding was also cut, but it's still going on. Like, we still discussed that we still had to accommodate the federal cuts of this budget. So I know I'm just ranting because I'm frustrated with this, but it almost sounds like it's not like we're passing the buck when we're saying that the other levels of government have to step up, but they actually do. Not only have to step up, but they have to stop stepping down. And so I'm not sure if people actually really understand the stepping down that is still going on, Ruth. And could you spend a bit of time explaining that?
Yeah, thank you. And through you, Madam Chair. I'm not the key expert on it, but in a nutshell, obviously 20 years ago, social housing, or over 20 years ago now, social housing did get downloaded from the province to the municipal governments. And it came with, obviously, social housing has, social housing providers through their operating funding, or they're paying down their mortgages. So right now we're in the position where some social housing providers, they have paid down their mortgage, and their operating costs, although they're still quite significant, are going down somewhat because they're obviously not having to do their mortgage payments. It is also an opportunity to renegotiate or relook at how, what the future is of these social housing projects. But at the same time, the federal government and the provincial governments have also kind of taken that as an opportunity to gradually reduce their funding towards the city as the service manager. So although there's some opportunities to look slightly differently at how we're funding social housing, and there's some savings, we continue to have to find every year. We know we have a projected kind of step down funding. We are slowly being, like, the feds and the province is slowly weaning us off from their funding. I mean, we're happy to, maybe that might be helpful too for 2022, do a little updates on that for a committee, because it is way more complicated than I just explained. But it has definitely been, because every year when we go to council, not only do we obviously have significant needs in the housing and homelessness and social services sector, we also we are already behind because we need to find more money, because we know we have now another X% of reduction of our federal and provincial funding. And that obviously ultimately is affecting the ability to fund other initiatives. So I will gladly put that on my list to add for the 2022 work plan as well, to add a bit of a summary on the step down and how it works. And again, there are some opportunities with the end of mortgages. coming up with some of our providers. We've already done some renegotiations and have been able to reposition some of these. Again, that's another opportunity to, for instance, look at some diversification of projects. So some of the projects are only RGI, and it's an opportunity to bring in some portable housing benefits, or even bring in some markets and then use some of the portable housing benefits to supplement the loss. So anyway, happy to give that, bring that back with some additional information.
Thanks, Ms. Nordegraf. I think that's really important to really understand what the landscape is in which we're trying to make the best out of the resources that we do have. And I actually am quite worried about all the frontline workers and the staff at ICH and other areas and how hard they're working in this shortage of resources. I think it's quite troublesome, not only for the people who are unhoused, but also for the people who are trying their best to work in the situation that they find themselves in. Thanks.
Thank you. Were there any other questions or comments from the committee? Okay, I really appreciate all of the questions and comments and that open dialogue. And now we will move forward with the public. So I will ask Ms. Fawcett if we have any members of the public who wish to speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And through you, we do still have 3 members of the public with us this afternoon. So I'm just going to ask if there's anyone who wishes to ask a question, provide comment or feedback on this business item. If you could please raise your hand in Zoom so that we may call on you. This is found in the center of your screen when you move the mouse over the Zoom window. We don't currently have any hands, Madam Chair. We'll just give a couple seconds to make sure there is nobody who wishes to speak at this time. And I'll do a final call. Anyone wishing to speak to the business item, please raise your hand. We do not have any hands, Madam Chair. Thank you.
And also to those from the public that are with us for this, thank you so much. Thanks for being here, for listening in, for your passion and heart as well, and being present. And so I would just say, I do hope, I know Ms. Nordegraf had mentioned that she is going to get back to us regarding the Memorial Center and what happened there with regards to the electricity. But I think that would be great for everyone on our committee to know, if you are able to uncover that, please, if you could let us know, that would be awesome. Okay, so we're going to move forward then. Thank you for everybody's input on that business item. And thank you again, Ms. Nordegraf, for the review and for taking all those questions, and same with Ms. Boris. So we'll move forward to motions, which we don't have any motions listed on the agenda. So we'll move forward to notices of motion. Again, there are no notices of motion on the agenda. We'll move forward to other business. I will say other business is meant to be brought up during the approval of the agenda, which in most board meetings that I'm in, other business is like, oh, by the way, I meant to mention this. So I sort of like the idea, if there is something that you wanted to bring up right now, other business that we could review at the next meeting, or any other questions, now's your chance. Perfect. So we'll move over to correspondence, which I did not receive any correspondence. Ms. Fawcett, can you just confirm that we don't have any correspondence to acknowledge?
That is correct, Madam Chair. We did not receive correspondence.
Okay, perfect. So then we'll move forward with the date of the next meeting, which is scheduled for Thursday, March 10th, 2022 at 1 p.m. And with that, we will move to adjournment. If I could please have a first to adjourn. Oh, that was a few hands at one time. We'll go with Councillor Dougherty. I saw a hand up first, and then I think I saw Ms. Everett for second. And if I could have a show of hands for all in favor, please. Thank you very much. That passes unanimously as well. So thank you so much, everybody, for being present at the meeting, for all of your questions and heart, and we'll see you next time.